What's up, nerds? We got another podcast today. We're talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, AMD and NVIDIA launch new GPUs, and Sony's state of play. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's always lead in as the usual. What are you playing? What are you watching? What are you doing as a side hobby?
Well, my main hobby is taking care of my daughter. And I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom sparsely. I beat Breath of the Wild. Let's go.
Which
like 1 week after Tears of the Kingdom came out.
For those of you who don't know, that's a huge feat for Dan because he does not finish open
Never
world
beats
games.
open world games.
So yeah, when he sent me a picture of the credits on that, I got super stoked for him. So
what kind of odds were you giving me on finishing the Breath of the Wild? Were you like, okay, Dan's playing through Breath of the Wild?
Like honestly, like 10%. I didn't even think you were gonna like not even just being an asshole. I didn't think you were going to. I thought you beat a few of the divine beasts and then just be like, all right, I got the gist of the game, and then watch the cutscenes on YouTube and call it a day. I'm genuinely impressed.
Yeah, so I think what kind of happened there is a bunch of things kind of like came together where I watched a bunch of people play Tears of the Kingdom day one just to get like some first impressions, play into the hype a little bit because I knew I wasn't probably going to be playing it because I was still going through Breath of the Wild. And I heard everyone say, literally the 5 people that I watched, I only watched them for 15, 20 minutes a piece. They all said I can never go back to Breath of the Wild after playing this game. It just like it's all a Breath of the Wild, but everything's better. All the abilities, the map, the points of interest, the engagements, everything's dialed up and is better. It's like, oh, they got a point. So it's either I beat this game now or I never come back to it ever again. And I really just wanted to just be like, nope, I'm done. Put that on the shelf, move on to Tears of the Kingdom. And so I was mainlining it pretty hard. And I was I'd already been kind of mainlining it pretty hard. But I think my goal was to beat all the divine beasts for sure, and then get to Ganon. And if the Ganon fight was taking too much time or too hard, I would have been like, all right, well, I got 90% of the game. I'll call that good, and I'll start playing or Tears of the Kingdom. But no, the Ganon fight took me like 3 or 4 tries. And really it was just about that, like, he puts up this like invulnerable shield and mechanic, and I just like I do not enjoy that one bit. It already like wasn't mechanically one of the harder kind of like fights in the game. And so then after he did that, I was like, well, this is really stupid. It really forces you to use all the mechanics that I had ignored the entire playthrough. The like Fury attack dodging and the parrying system. I did not parry a goddamn single attack the entire playthrough. And the only reason I started to do the Fury attack, like slow down dodge thing, was because I literally had to for the third divine beast with the electricity. Otherwise, I didn't do any of that. I just like would whack everything that I could. I would avoid any engagement that I didn't need to get into. And then if there was for the Lionel fight, which was really hard for me, I just put on a defense up ×3 and just took all of his attacks just brute forced that engagement. And so I think I finished the game with literally a 3-piece defense helmet, a 5-piece or 7-piece chest piece, and a 5 defense pants. That's how I finished the game. I only upgraded everything once for armor wise.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I my playthrough was about 50 hours on Breath of the Wild, but towards the end I started really pushing it out. Getting a little bored of the open world. Not bored, but it was right when I bought the Switch, and I think I told you I wanted to play Mario Odyssey. Yep. So I was kind of pushed through in that, but glad you beat it, man.
Me too.
So how many hours have you put into Tears of the Kingdom? Just a couple.
Well, it takes it's a good 2-3 hours in the starting area if you like don't know what you're doing. Which I feel like I didn't, and I was kind of like playing through while my daughter was like crawling around and kind of napping, and so it took me a little bit longer. So I got out of the starting area and I'm like finishing up all the temples kind of in the main starting area.
Okay.
Like
so have you gone underground or anything yet, or?
I went just for the little story beat to like go talk to the dude, and then I came back out immediately, and so that was my experience of that.
Yeah, I'm not too much farther than you, honestly. I really haven't played too much, but first impressions, I mean, it feels like Breath of the Wild too. It really does. All the audio cues, all of the I mean, the graphics are the same, the audio cues are the same, the cooking's the same.
I think the graphics are better and worse at the same time, if that makes any sense.
I haven't played Breath of the Wild for years, so I guess you gotta elaborate more on that. Because to me, it's fuzzy. The graphics are fuzzy.
They added more to the game and made everything more complex. And to push the Switch hardware, I think they did something really cool, but I think they could have also like improved it and done better. Breath of the Wild runs at 1080p in docked mode and 720p in handheld, like natively, and that's why the world is like pretty sparsed out. Well, Tears of the Kingdom, all the enemy density is like pretty darn heavy, and there's so much going on and everything. So they kind of run like a dynamic resolution, and they use AMD's FSR to upscale it. So even when it's docked and it's outputting 1080p, it's not running internally at 1080p. I think it's running at like a 720p class and upscaling it, or like 900p.
900, yeah.
And then in handheld, it goes even like kind of lower than that.
I haven't played it in handheld yet.
Well, I'll tell you, on the OLED, it might be the best looking the game's going to get, just because of the pixel density, the size, the colors are vibrant. Looks really good on the Switch OLED.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should get a Switch OLED, because once you dip your foot in the OLED world, you're going to have to upgrade your TV to OLED. You have to upgrade your monitor to OLED, and it's just going to ruin everything else for you in your life you got going for you.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I mean, if Zelda would have came with the new OLED Switch, the Zelda edition, I would have probably bought one, but it didn't even come with
a sweet looking Switch.
Yeah, but it didn't even come with the game. It's like, dude,
it was so stupid. Yeah. I think it literally was like $60 or $70 more price wise. So it was priced like it came with the game,
right?
And then just didn't.
Well, and GCD Brands made a better looking one. And
I did.
Yeah, they're sending out emails joking about how they're getting sued by Nintendo and the lawyers are contacting them. But
I will say D-Brand's marketing has always been on point.
Right. But yeah, so far I mean, I was really sick last week, and then I had to work for 4 days out of town. But overall, I've been wanting to play the game. I've actually gotten more into Tears of the Kingdom I thought I would. I thought I was just going to kind of dabble in there. But once I started playing, I told you the other day, I went in with a different mindset. I'm like, okay, I know this is survival-esque type game, so it's not just a Zelda, old school Zelda like I'm used to, where it's very narrative driven. I'm like, I went in with the mindset like, hey, you're going to have to collect weapons, you're going to have to cook, you're going to have to, take the time to cook, read all the food, upgrade your weapons properly. And I will say, my biggest issue with Breath of the Wild was the weapon system and how easily it broke, and I think they fixed 100%. It's a good balance here. They still have the mechanic, but you can combine your weapons, anything on the ground, whatever, and they definitely do last a lot longer. And having that different mindset, I'm like, okay, I'm playing a different way, and I was originally pissed off with Breath of the Wild for that because I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, so far it's fun. The story's engaging. I like the characters. I like the characters they brought back. I'm happy with it. I mean, it's my main game right now. I kind of haven't even turned on my PC. Actually, when I turned on today for this podcast, I had a GeForce update, which normally, is always up to date. So, but yeah, that's what I've been playing too. It's been out for 2 weeks now, almost, as of tomorrow. But I've only got like I don't know, probably 5 hours in. So I'm this weekend with having the 4 day off. I really want to, grind. Like after our podcast night, I'm definitely gonna be playing for a few hours and then not having to wake up. I'm excited to get some of those late nights.
For sure.
But other than that, me and Heather started watching the new Ant-Man's out, or came to Disney Plus, so we're watching the first one because she's never seen it and she's actually into it now, so we watched about an hour last night.
Dude, nobody like has
I like
seen
it. It's
Ant-Man
good.
or
Good.
like, dude, it's one of, I think it's one of the best. It's this great mix of action comedy, and Paul Rudd is the perfect character for it. And the first one's classic. It's a great first movie. It's so funny. The direction is beautiful. And then the second one was really good, but it's not as rewatchable as the first one. There's some of those that, like, once you know the ending, you're like, I don't really like.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second one, so we're gonna actually watch. We're gonna watch through because I've seen the first one. I think I watched on a plane a couple years ago, and so I'm rewatching that with her. And then we're gonna watch the second one. We're gonna watch the third one. So
such a treat.
It's funny.
It's a great trilogy.
Yeah, honestly, like she gets into the Marvel movies and stuff, even though she like, I'll mention, she'll be like, okay. I'm like, well, we gotta start from the beginning because she likes knowing it all. But other than that, I haven't been watching anything else since I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. But what I will tell you, I think you'll have a lot of respect for this. There's a book series called Earthsea, and there's 4 books in the series. It was originally 3 books, and then like 18 years later, she came out with the 4th book. She didn't plan on writing the 4th book, but it's a high fantasy world, and the first 3 books were amazing. Really, really into them. In the 4th book, it took me like 4 months to listen to because it was so boring. It had some character building in it, but there was not action or anything. And like it started where the first book ended, or the last book ended. It was one of those books where it just was so drawn out. I listened to it for like 15 minutes at a time. I'm like, man, I just can't do this. So anyways, I finally finished that thing. Was not happy with the book whatsoever, but like I'm glad I finished it because it was 12 hours of like kind of, hey, it's more like a prologue, like, hey, this is what happened after their adventures, right? But now I started the bless you. I started the Dark Elf trilogy from Dungeons and Dragons. So R.A. Salvador, or R.L.R.A. I can't remember. I've never read any of his books, but have you ever heard of the name Driz? He's like the most famous dark elf in Dungeons and Dragons. There's 3 books about him. So this first book, dude, like I am so hooked on this first book right now. It is so freaking good. Like it's blown away my expectations. So the first one's called Homeland. I just want to verify this, the author's name. Yeah, so it's Homeland. R.A. Salvatore. But this series, this trilogy is known as like the first series you should read if you want to get into Dungeons and Dragons lore. And dude, I'm like 2 hours in, and it's one of those things where I stop in my destination driving. I just want to listen to it more because it is the description this author puts in your brain. It reminds me of back when I originally read the Harry Potter books, but better. It's higher dark fantasy that I really like. So, if anyone's into books, this Homeland book and the Dark Elf trilogy is just phenomenal. Really, really into it right now. So that's kind of where I've been besides Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Been listening to that and just having a blast. So even though I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, I like a lot of the lore, and you look at like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. It's very closely intertwined. So it's one of my interests. But so yeah, that's what I've been up to. It's been 2 weeks since our last podcast. So
I know.
With work and me being, I was so sick, man. I was so sick. I'm still on medication.
I talked to him on the phone, and I thought it was somebody else answering his phone.
Hello.
I was like, dude, who is this right now?
It was so weird, man. I just woke up 2 Wednesdays ago. I just didn't have a voice, and I felt fine, but then it just like went downhill from there. I started getting my voice back, but then I was coughing uncontrollably. My throat hurt so bad. spitting up green and blowing out green and all that nasty shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still on medication for it though, and it's still like I'll randomly have a coughing outburst, but I'm pretty good so far. But having to work like that over the weekend really kind of sucked.
Yeah, that would not be fun.
So yeah, that's what we've been up to. Let's jump into to your first topic. You can pick. I don't know if you want to.
Well, we kind of already talked a little bit about Tears of the Kingdom, but I kind of just wanted to talk. I guess like the main question is it game of the year? My kind of initial thoughts is like it's obviously a lot of fun. It's very good, but after 5 or 6 hours, I don't know if it's going to be up to game of the year. I think it's really going to have a big shock and wow factor to be game of the year, personally. To be like a no-brainer game of the year. I think it'll obviously it's going to be up there in the contention, and it still might win, but like to be hands down game of the year, best game like since Breath of the Wild, does it live up to kind of some of the hype? There's obviously a lot of new things I think they like added to it, but I'm kind of doubting if it really can recapture the same magic that Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah, I think it's a great game. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal game. I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but if you look at the time period of when this game was coming out, Breath of the Wild was genre driving, right? So you look at the open world and the mechanics.
How many games have just copied, tried to copy Breath of the Wild's formula, the art style? Like they pushed the boundaries on all fronts. People were taking notes of this, and this kind of just, I mean, it is a true sequel, but it really. They didn't have to change a whole lot. They added like a bunch to the game, but like the main part of the like the main level of the same world is still there, pretty much the exact same format, but they just added an underground and an above.
Yeah, I think you got to look at the year that Breath of the Wild came out, because now the Switch is how many years old? 7 years old, I think, and it's chugging, man. And you're looking at all the different graphics of games that have come out. You look at Harry Potter, stuff like that, that are amazing open world games. I don't personally think that a game that runs as poorly as Tears of the Kingdom does should be considered for game of the year, just because the graphics are muddy, right? I'm not trying to like shit down this game's throat, but yes, it's an amazing game, but for something to be game of the year, it should have phenomenal graphics. It should run perfectly, right? Like,
so the argument that everybody kind of says on that front is it's amazing what they're able to do on the Switch hardware, because they did, like, I think, improve everything from Breath of the Wild almost in every single way. Now, the kind of muddiness you're kind of talking about is a result of using FSR 1.0 with, and 3.0 is coming out FSR. So I don't know why they didn't use a later implementation, or if they like implemented it early on in the development cycle.
But we're talking game of the year, not technology of the year, right? So like
true, but it's also the game size is 16 gigabytes,
right? But this is the game's about fun factor, story, performance, right? Like, I agree with what you're saying, but
I mean, it's amazing
as a normal consumer, they don't give a shit about that, right?
That's true. It just matters about the end result.
End result.
Do you think that this game or Elden Ring is better?
Elden Ring, hands down.
See, I mean, so I think I agree, but to play devil's advocate, like, I don't think Elden Ring was that graphically and technically amazing. They capped it at 60 FPS on PC. I mean, it ran on a lot of stuff, but like, it could have been pushed much harder. Why can't I play at 120 FPS? Like, seems like a no-brainer. It's kind of stupid limitation. It doesn't come with widescreen support on PC. Right. And like there was like you had to like download a special client for like mods, otherwise you were considered a cheater. which I got kind of get with some of the PvP stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
other games have figured out that that aspect. And so how do you launch a game of the year game with no widescreen support, nothing higher than 60 FPS, and the while the art design was great and the world was beautiful, I don't think they were like pushing the limits of any graphically intense. It didn't. I mean, I think Anthem's world was more flushed out and like graphically eye popping.
I think the difference with Elden Ring versus Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild is they packed in so much narrative by telling the story from the world. Then when you look at Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, it's pretty barren, which is okay. I like that. I like that you're just running an open field and stuff, but like if you got into some of the end game stuff, like I know you didn't get past the fire giant. Once you get past that, it evens opens up more, you know, and there's a lot of storytelling from the world that they did build. So I think that's where I'm okay with it being capped at 60 frames in the art direction. The ultra or the widescreen, at the time I didn't have a widescreen, so I didn't even know that was
so it
an
didn't
issue.
matter to you.
Yeah, I didn't know that was an issue.
So I
told
booted
me.
it up once and it somehow got into widescreen on my super ultra wide and it was phenomenal, amazing. Like I was in awe, and then I don't know, the game shut down or something happened, and then I came back and it was locked to 16:9, and I was just, why? It's a PC game.
Yeah, you would think, and it did launch.
And honestly, I think it's it did, which never really got fixed. The Steam Deck fixed it. Steam came in and they knew how to fix it, but the game could not. The developers couldn't, and all it was shader caching.
Yeah, see, my stuttering went away with the first patch, so I don't know who still had stuttering, but I didn't. Because after week 1, the stuttering went away for me. So
there was still some stuff. If you like spun around in a circle, it would reload everything. So like everything that was outside of your view, it would discard all the shaders for it. And so then as you spun around really quickly, so like really it only came into effect if you whatever was in your view and if you were spinning around like super fast, where if you were like normally like riding around on your horse or slowly in a fight with, you know,
yeah,
it really didn't come up that much. But you could literally sit there and spin around in a circle and you could see where it was like having to reload in or recompile all the shaders on the fly constantly.
Yeah.
And the Steam Deck could come in and fix that with middleware by just caching everything that it discarded, keeping it ready to go.
I think too, though, the year that
honestly, I think it was like for a game of the year game, I think it was a terrible PC port.
No, I agree. You know, there was issues, but also look at the competition it had that year. Now going into 2023, though, dude, there's about to be some bangers of games that are dropping. So Tears of the Kingdom definitely has its work cut out for it.
Some competition.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anything touched Elden Ring. Pokemon came out that year, but like that was graphically shit, right? So I know the gameplay was groundbreaking for Pokemon.
What else was the other big game that released?
I don't really remember, honestly. Because
wasn't there one that like went up with? It wasn't Cyberpunk, was it?
No, because Elden Ring came out in February. I mean, Halo came out November prior, right?
Yeah, there was another game around that time frame, and I can't remember if they came out first, and then everything just shifted to Elden Ring, and like that game was like forgotten.
Let me see. What game came out by Elden?
I mean, like, I don't know. Personally, I think Elden Ring's gameplay was so much better that, like, I think it deserved to be Game of the World more. And its world was so much more diverse and fleshed out. And it did tell a story, although I really wish more of the story would have been, like, in front of you, told to you with maybe a few more cutscenes that, you could like pick apart and digest and enjoy more. Because honestly, as I was going through, like I can't tell you a whole lot of the story right now off the top of my head because none of it was super memorable. I think the lore was really good, kind of like a Destiny situation.
Yeah, that's just From Software in general, though. That's their style. They create world building and story so that their players can have fan fiction. So, like, if you read all the items in Elden Ring, that's where a lot of the stuff comes from. Which, not saying that's good or bad, but that's just how...
I guess I can respect it a little bit.
That's how every single one of their games is. I mean, you look at all the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro. Sekiro's more adventure, action-adventure, but that definitely had more cutscenes. But Elden Ring had a shit ton of cutscenes versus, like, Dark Souls. So
that's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom... We'll see.
Right now, I think it's got a little bit of an uphill battle for me to be Game of the Year. Not a shoo-in, but I heard the story is much better than Breath of the Wild, presented to you better, and there's just more of it. So yeah.
I have noticed that already. I have noticed that already. That there's just a few different. There's a lot more main story quests. That are they're still puzzle pieces, right? Like, go here, see this cutscene, but there's different characters that introduce those to you more than just the one main. Hey, go here and see what happens.
They're alive in this game,
right? Yeah, exactly. That's a big thing. So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'm having a blast with it though. I will say that. I just, looking at it, I sometimes, even last night, I was just sitting there like looking at my character. I'm like, God, Link, you look so gross, man. Like, he doesn't look good. It sucks because I really like his character style, like with the longer hair and stuff. And just like the tattoo and all that. I really like him, but I'm just like, dude, you're muddy. You look muddy, man. It sucks.
Yeah, I think so. I think part of it or a lot of that can be, I don't know if you've ever seen those like M cable HDMI cables,
like the red things.
They upscale the image.
Yeah.
That really helps.
Okay. Well, how much? Those are like $70, aren't they? Yeah. I'm not.
Or more. 100.
Sorry. For the last,
it's a Switch Pro. I'm sorry, it's a Switch Pro.
Yeah, the last Switch game I'm playing, I'm probably not going to buy that. I can just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
But well,
it does help.
Yeah. So moving on. I think that's enough Tears of the Kingdom talk for one night.
For sure. All right. So Sony's State of Play, they dropped some bangers that we definitely have to talk about. So I guess we'll start off with one of your two that you suggested that we talk.
So we could talk Dragon's Dogma 2 first.
Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma, the first game, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's
I'd heard of it, never played it.
So I actually haven't played it either, just because it's old and a little crusty. But it is known as a RPG genre defining game. It's very, very underrated. And I'm just excited to play a newer version of it. It looks like the same exact concept, right? Like, you're fighting these big ass enemies. You can like essentially climb up them, like with your daggers. You can like stick into them, climb up them. It's just like really intricate fighting adventure, but there's also a lot of party RPG elements to the game, which is the best of both worlds for me, because I get really bored with like hack and slash action adventure, but this is like more intricate. But then the party based RPG systems, which I love. So I'm really excited to play that. The trailer was so. Wasn't really impressed with it that much.
I was knowing nothing about Dragon's Dogma except for just hearing the name tossed around. I got Skyrim vibes from the trailer.
Okay.
Like the characters, the races, the magic and spells. I mean, obviously, like it looked beautiful. The game did, and the graphics and fighting and how fast the action was looked amazing. But just like it looked like a Skyrim kind of, or Elder Scrolls kind of like world with like a different story, like that company's take on Skyrim, their version of it, I guess, is what I got from the trailer. Now the gameplay could be completely different, and
it is like, you know, Elder Scrolls is first person, is very slow, combat's very like, I don't know, just slow, and this is very intricate. Seems like a lot of like more hack and slash with combos, stuff like that. But I can see where you're coming from. Is that high fantasy stuff? So I don't know. I'm excited to try it. I'm not a huge older game player, so
it's tough to go back if you're not looking through it with nostalgia glasses,
right? So I've just been waiting for this to come out because I've always wanted to play Dragon's Dogma, and now I'll have the opportunity to play the second one. So, and then the other one, I can't even think of what it's called right now. You got to type
Phantom Blade Zero.
Yeah, man. This looks like a mix between like Sekiro and Neo and pretty much any other fast-paced like Japanese theme samurai or, you know, Blade Master type game, dude. It looks awesome. It looks gritty, dark, very fast action. Did you watch the trailer or no?
I did. I was getting some Sekiro vibes, or kind of some Tales of Tsushima. Is that what that other kind of Japanese
Ghost of Tsushima?
Yep. Ghost of Tsushima. It kind of looked like a little bit of both of those with their own kind of spin on it, and it did look pretty good. I was digging it.
My biggest concern is a lot of it looked generated, like staged, I guess, because like how fast the combat was. I'm like, okay, well, realistically, unless they have like auto blocking mechanics, I think a lot of that might have been staged. So I think that's going to be the big make or break with that game, because if a lot of it's just, you know,
you just never know with some of the trailers, right? Like, right. Trailers can get you hype, but if you're not seeing like legit gameplay of somebody playing through, just don't know. And that's why I try not to get usually my hopes up on a cinematic trailer or a teaser trailer or an announcement trailer. It's because they usually show very little gameplay. And the gameplay is usually so much different than what the trailer kind of showed.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple spots where he was like running around, and when he was doing that, man, it looked great.
It did look good.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. And two, I just want to say, I know we're gonna talk about State of Play, but you know, Xbox dropped a lot of cool trailers today too. I'm like, holy shit, just a lot going on. But
some of them were either like the same as the PlayStation ones, and Xbox was just like, guys, the game's coming to our system too,
right? Or you know,
it's not the PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah. The biggest one though, that for the State of Play, is Spider-Man 2. Holy shit! Like that right there is between Final Fantasy 16 coming out and Spider-Man 2. Like that, those are console sellers in my opinion. Because like, dude, Spider-Man 2 looked so good. Like, first off, you got the gritty Venom, right? Like, you got the
if they can nail this story, like they will have a license to print money. Venom is like the most beloved anti-hero that nobody except for the 90s cartoon can seem to figure out to like write well or play into well. And honestly, like even the Venom movies with Tom Hardy aren't that great. I think they're great for a more casual audience, and they're not rated R, which is just like
weird in
my mind. Yeah, but and then the old Spider-Man movies that tried to incorporate Venom, they kind of like shoehorned in him. Like he is, besides for the Green Goblin, he is like the most recognizable name in the Spider-Man franchise and one of the most beloved villains. Or anti-heroes of all time. So
Like,
if they can nail that, it's going to be an incredible game.
honestly, in the trailer or the gameplay footage, like Parker's voice changing when the suit took over him, dude, like, and just the little things they did in the trailer when he was, when the suit turned black and he's like beating the shit out of everyone, but there's a few times he like threw civilians and didn't go help them. And it's like little things like that. It's like that's Peter Parker, but he's doing little things like that.
They understand.
Yeah, so there was that, and then the way he switched over to Miles, like it was just like, hey, you're on this side of the city. I was like, boom, and then all of a sudden Miles is flying with his little, squirrel suit shit going on. Like, dude, it looked good, man. My only concern with like that being a console seller, if it's only like a 20-hour game, which is perfect, but it's like that's a lot of money to fork over to. Maybe.
For sure. No, on those topics, did you hear what Phil Spencer went on the Kind of Funny podcast and talked about after Redfall?
Yeah. He
and said that
apologized and he's given up.
The message, well, I kind of got some given up vibes, but basically what he was trying to like say was that they're trying to do things differently to like win people over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're pushing so hard with Game Pass and adding like the best value in gaming into the Xbox ecosystem, is because even if he says Starfield's an 11 out of 10, PlayStation people aren't going to just sell their PlayStations and go buy Xboxes and become Xbox people now.
Yeah, he by giving up, I mean he's not trying to sell consoles by producing games. That's what he's giving up on the console war. Essentially. Yeah,
he kind of like conceded because he just like saw and part of it I think was true and part of it I think wasn't. Kind of like you said with Spider-Man, like you will go out and buy a console for that.
Mm-hmm.
But are you and I the majority?
No, not
at all. And if we were, families with kids would, for your kids, if the new game came out and you're like, oh, that does look pretty cool and they want it, would you buy them a whole nother console just so they can play the one game?
No, because there's not. If it was like, see, that's where you look at like Halo selling consoles back in the day. That was a genre breaking. I've said that a lot tonight, but truly like groundbreaking multiplayer game that could have thousands of countless hours played on it, right? And it's like I need to fucking play Halo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you don't have many games like that anymore, but the thing that Sony has going for them is they have so many games that are still exclusive that, okay, say I bought a PS5, if that's the straw that breaks the camel's back for me to buy it, I still have how many other games that I can play to get my money's worth out of it. If I did that for Xbox, I wouldn't.
Yep.
Say I bought a console to play Starfield. What other games can you provide me, Xbox, that I can't play on my PlayStation? Gears of War? Oh, cool, I have a PC. You can play it on there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think Xbox is in a tough spot because their PC like friendly approach to everything is
and biting them in the ass.
It helps them and it bites them. It's like they're one of their greater strengths and it's one of their like worst like poisons, because what is for hardcore gamers like ourselves, what's the point of owning an Xbox? I have the Series X and I love the console's design, the power of it, everything about it, but I have my PC.
Mm-hmm.
And I can play everything that I can play on the Series X on PC, and it's better.
Right.
There's nothing is taking advantage of the speed of the new SSDs like they were supposed to, like they advertised, that I can't do on PC, right? Like the only real game, even on PlayStation, is Ratchet and Clank. The only game that has taken advantage of the speed of the PlayStation's SSD that you could not do on a computer is Ratchet and Clank. They physically loaded the next level, whole world, in seconds.
Yeah. But then too, like you're looking at that, because when I was looking at buying my PlayStation, you $200, $150 for that fucking SSD. It's like, dude, I can buy an M.2 for $80. You know,
For Xbox, you're saying?
For PlayStation, you're looking like
that they just use the M.2.
I know, but I thought you had to have a specific one. That's
Yeah, do you have one of
Sony's.
the Gen 5 ones and they have an approved list? It's actually, this is the first time I'll go on and say it, that Sony did something better than Microsoft. Microsoft has the proprietary SSD that's still
maybe that's why maybe that's
150 $170 for a 1 terabyte. And there's a lot of PS5 compatible SSDs out there for a terabyte that are under $100 right now because M.2s prices are falling off the face of the earth.
Okay, maybe I switched those around. I was thinking it was Sony that you had to have a specific one. But there,
you did, and when they launched, it looked like Xbox kind of had the better game plan, and the fact that Xbox had it over a year before Sony even had one compatible M.2 to work was like, okay, like if you were a hardcore gamer that wanted to play on next gen, that was a kind of a major advantage. But and I kind of knew that it towards the end of the generation or mid generation, Microsoft's plan was going to kind of fall apart. Now, Western Digital, Seagate was the proprietary owner of Xbox's technology, and now Western Digital has a drive as well. So we might see some more competition in the Xbox hard drive ecosystem that might drive prices a little bit more competitively, which is cool. But it is a heck of a lot easier to upgrade the Xbox's SSD than Sony's. Could you imagine like not being a tech person, just a mother or father, and trying to add an M.2 to a PlayStation?
Right. Yeah. Thank God for
that'd be a tough sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's one of the most simple things you can do in a PC, but like just as a user friendly standpoint, I could never picture my dad doing that.
Right. Yeah.
My dad wouldn't even like know how to look up a YouTube video.
He wouldn't even know it could be compatible.
Right? Yeah, it would be me telling him like, "Hey, can we get this?" And he'd be like,
"What are you talking
I don't know how to do this." Yeah. Exactly. Would not happen.
Yeah, we'll see if
where Xbox is literally just like plug in, it works,
right.
You're good. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. It sucks that the price is so high. But you do get a little bit more storage space on the Xbox than you do in the PlayStation at the $500 price point.
Yeah, we'll see. Kind of what I did with my Xbox One X. You know, like if Spider-Man comes out in November timeframe or whatever. I don't know. It's 2023, so I don't think they did an official launch date. But you know, looking like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If I can get it one for $450, I'll pull the trigger then. You know me. I got a backlog for days, but you know, Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man are definitely on my radar because eventually, yes, it will come to PC. But dude, waiting 2 years,
that's where Sony's kind of getting you.
Game got me hyped, man. I'm not gonna lie,
and it sucks because I'm sitting over here like, okay, Spider-Man is one of my favorite games of all time on PC, and I might have to.
Right.
It might have to be how I get my Spider-Man fix until it comes to PC.
Yeah, now I'm feeling bad that I kind of put Spider-Man on the back burner because Zelda came out. That's your fault though, because you wanted me to play a game.
It's true. We never get to play the same game together because we're on different release schedules.
Right. Oh man, I don't think this was on State of Play, but Space Marine 2. I texted you. Did you watch the trailer?
I don't know which is. That's not the old school art style, is it?
That's Bolt Gun.
Bolt Gun. Okay. Gun. Then I haven't seen Space Marine yet.
Dude, Warhammer this week. Well, first off, they have this huge sale going on Steam right now. Everything's like 75% off for all the Warhammer.
Really?
Everything. It's crazy. Except like their one new game's only like 20 or 30% off. But
okay.
Space Marine 2 is coming out. Rogue Trader, which is essentially like a top-down party-based tactical RPG, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be like. Is coming. The beta is starting June 1st, and it's being produced by Owlcat, who produced Pathfinder, which is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's its own board game, right? But like Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous is considered like one of the top CRPGs of all time, and depending on who you're talking to, but they're producing a Warhammer Universe one, and I'm like, bro, like, there's just too many freaking good games coming out, and like I'm watching the state of play, and then Xbox is like, hey, look at this shit too, and then it seems like, oh, by the way, we got this huge sale going on. I'm like, I'm still trying to play Zelda, guys. Like, it's a good problem to have, man. I just can't. Oh, and then like I got an email saying, hey, come play Wayfinder beta too, and I'm like, just a lot of good stuff coming out, man. There's still some good releases coming out. We still have Starfield this year.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
Was there anything else in the state of play that you really?
Oh man, Marathon. Bungie's new extraction shooter.
See, I was thinking when I was watching it, I was wondering what you were gonna think about, if you were gonna like it. I don't know if you're into the games like this.
I don't like. I like watching Escape from Tarkov. I'll never play it because I'm not like in the realism sim portion of that. And I've been waiting for somebody, one of the mainstream games, to make an extraction shooter, basically kind of like Fortnite did to PUBG. Take that niche of a battle royale and make it mainstream and amazing. And I honestly thought Battlefield was going to do it, and then the whole game just imploded on itself. And then I thought it was going to be cool in COD, and I do think honestly it's like one of its better game modes, but you have to like beg your friends to come play it.
Right.
But it wasn't really it. It was still, I just don't think it works well in the same sandbox as the campaign or the battle royale for Warzone. I think you need to really design a like TTK and a pacing and everything kind of around its own genre. You can't just like kind of lump it in with your other kind of things. And so I think Call of Duty could have done a better job with it, made it a little bit more like tighter of a thing. I have a lot of faith in Bungie to really kind of nail this one. I think they've really been working on it for a long time. I think they've had I've heard teases of they were supposed to have launched another PvP game alongside of or a couple of years after Destiny for Sony. They like thought they had this exclusive kind of deal, and they kind of scrapped that when Destiny started taking off, and they realized they didn't have enough resources to do 2 games. They took $100 million from like a Chinese company to make some mobile game or something, or I don't know, but that never really came to be. And I think they gave the $100 million back. And then there's just been this like teaser of a game that they've kind of been working on, more PvP focused. And honestly, I was really hoping it would be more in the Destiny universe, because I think Bungie has so much skill in first person shooters that they really could expand that universe into a hero shooter that is more like balanced and PvP focused, right? You've got characters in Destiny that you could just turn into heroes, and it would be a lot better. Like, you could play as Zavala, or you could play as a Cora Ray, or all these classic heroes that have default weapons that you can balance for. But so I thought they were going to do something more along those lines. It is kind of cool that they're bringing back their like debut game. Like Marathon was like their first game that they kind of ever made before Halo. So they're doing it in that world, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm digging the aesthetics of the game. It's a very clean but high def kind of game where it's like simple geometry. So I think it'll run good, but still look kind of like next gen. It's only for next gen consoles, so the old ones like aren't holding this game back like Destiny is. And they've talked about kind of melding this like world's first race into this extraction shooter. I don't know if you've listened to the Vidoc, because there was just a teaser trailer in the state of play. And they released like a 7-minute Vidoc talking about more kind of about the game. And they talked about like you finding a key that unlocks a zone that you will be immortalized as the first person to unlock this zone. You're like world's first in this area. And then you're gonna have to like figure out and survive in this brand new area that you unlocked for everybody else. And so I think they're kind of playing into the like day one raid races in an extraction shooter. And I think that really fits quite well, as long as they can nail the execution, right? And we didn't really get to see any gameplay at all.
Right.
And it still seems like it's kind of a ways off.
I'm thinking probably going to be 2 years out.
2024. Yeah. I think we'll probably get a beta maybe at the end of this year or early next year. And they said kind of after the beta, it'd be pretty quick release kind of after that. And so, yeah, I still think it's kind of early days. I think they probably announced it too early, but they're getting that Sony money, and Sony needs to round out their state of play. I mean, it looked good from what I saw, but I guess we'll stay tuned. I'm still really not happy about the Sony acquisition, and Sony's already sinking their teeth into Bungie. I got an email just last week that said exclusive skins for the new season on the PlayStation Store. And I'm like, how is this full creative freedom right here?
Right.
Like, are you fucking kidding? So what this means is I wasn't going to pay real money for them anyways, but all the like skins cycle through the like in-game currency shop so that you could earn them if you wanted them. Almost all the stuff like cycles through the free-to-play like path of it, so you could acquire it. And I do like it's one of the things while I was playing Destiny, I like signing on every week to see what was in the free to play shop, to see like what I could like spend my currency on. And this means it's going to be locked to that stuff's going to be locked to the PlayStation side of everything. And so well,
it's just like the PvP maps.
Yep, exactly. It's the PvP maps, it's the strikes, it's all that all over again. We already went through that with Bungie. I thought we told them that it was an awful system. I thought they learned it was an awful system. I thought that when they made they announced they made this Sony deal, that they still got full creative freedom to Destiny. Well, this doesn't seem like full creative freedom to me.
No.
I think it's bullshit, and I think they were wrong to sell. And I'm still very upset that I would go out of my way to buy skins and buy packs and whatever else in the game of Destiny, because I thought I was supporting an independent developer making the game that I loved, and then they took all that money and then they just sold themselves to Sony.
Yeah, I don't
and Sony, like, they're not the company that is this, welcoming, let's be on all platforms, let's play nice with everybody. They're the company that pays other companies to keep their game off of Game Pass.
Right.
To keep their games like not either exclusive or not exclusive from the other company. They will go out of their way to pay money to these companies to hurt Microsoft, just to hurt Microsoft. And honestly, I didn't think Bungie was ever really going to sell itself back to Microsoft because of the bad split. But if any company was the company to sell yourself to, that's just like being more open and free with all their developers, it's Microsoft right now. It's not Sony.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know how I feel. I'm excited for the PvP extraction shooter. I like the genre. I like PvPvE more. And it didn't say PvPvE. It's just PvP.
They did kind of make some hints of it in the Vidoc.
Okay. So I mean,
some environmental challenges, but
it's just strictly PvP. I think the Division 1 did the Dark Zone best as far as PvPvE extraction goes. Me, I'm not a huge sci-fi guy. The trailer didn't hype me up at all. I understand where
I was getting into that music though. Bungie knows how to make a trailer.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was thinking about that yesterday. I knew I knew you'd like that. I don't know. I'm not excited. I see where you're coming from. You're talking, it looks clean and next gen and this and that, but like, I didn't like the character they showed. I personally wouldn't. That's not something that I'd give a shit about. Like, if you're talking like a free to play or this or that, or you're talking aesthetics, reminded me too close to Destiny, honestly. It's just like that sci-fi style game. I'm like, with the helmet and this and that. So I don't know.
Bungie's got to stay in their wheelhouse. Like,
yeah, no, I get it. I do.
Destiny really seemed like Halo.
Right. No,
it kind of looked like it too, especially when it first launched, right? Like, and so I think they're
sticking to what they know for the sci-fi. The sci-fi.
Yeah,
for sure. The game I'm most excited about, and I can't think of what it's called right now, but it's in the Division universe. That's a PvPvE extraction shooter. I can't think in the home. What's it called? I'm gonna look this up.
The problem with that is I am hyped, but I don't. Is that a Ubisoft game?
Mm-hmm.
They can't get their head out of their ass, man. And I'm not even looking forward to their Star Wars game that apparently is could be launching in the next year or so, that they've been developing for 4 or 5 years, just because it's the only thing that they seem to be able to get right is Assassin's Creed.
Heartland, the Division Heartland, free to play survival game. It just looks cool. So we'll see.
I agree. It looks cool, but they've had.
Yeah, I don't trust Ubisoft.
They've tried to put their hat in a lot of this free to play extraction, free to play this and that, and it never turns out well. So half baked, underdeveloped, and all these companies they don't understand. If you're first to market with something, you can be half baked, like Destiny 1 was,
right?
In the live service genre.
But if it's already been done, you need to.
But if it's already been done, you need to be complete. You need to learn from what they did, like Apex did with Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
If you're throwing your hat in either the battle royale ring, you better have learned from Apex, who learned from everybody else. They literally meticulously went through the problems with the battle royale genre and they solved them.
Yeah,
pretty much all. And a lot of Fortnite took a lot of aspects that Apex took and put it in their game initially. So if you're launching these kind of games and you're not learning from everybody else, then you're screwed. You're doomed to fail. No one's going to stick these free to play games. Nobody sticks around 6 months to a year to see if they're good. And these companies don't want to keep paying until they get good for a year or whatever. And it's not like the $60 game market where you can say launch now, we'll make a $60 and then we'll update it in 2 years and everybody will come back, kind of like the Division kept doing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that luxury with free to play because you are making your money along the way. And if you're not selling battle passes and skins, then the company, the business people behind the scenes are saying, well, this X game cost X to develop and X to run and X to continue to develop for, and we've seen almost nothing come in about it. Your game's canceled. And that's where all these free to play games are getting canceled by. And so
yeah, I don't like Ubisoft. So we'll see. I
want to like Ubisoft, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, their last launches have been pretty trash. Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I just like the aesthetics of the game. I really hope, you're looking, like I said, the Division 1 Dark Zone was most fun I've had in a PvP game in long time. Yeah. PvPvE. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. I haven't been playing any competitive games, so if it's a flop, it's a flop. I go through stages where I'm like, I really need a competitive game, but I've been off that grind for months and months and months just because nothing was really scratching that itch.
It feels bad right now. I'm in a competitive hole. You get in a show hole after you've just finished your favorite show, and I'm there. I have the itch to fire up the keyboard and mouse and do some FPS action, and there's nothing out there that kind of excites me. Yeah. Actually, this is a topic that we didn't have written down. Titanfall 2 is back on private servers with a private client launcher. So a third-party company created their own kind of launcher for the game. You have to own the game on Steam or EA, and then you open up this launcher and they reroute the traffic to their own kind of private servers.
That's pretty cool.
It's free of cheaters, and there's a decent player base behind it. And so I watched some YouTuber play it, and I was like, oh, this seems pretty good. So it was a little confusing to set up, but once it was much easier than they said. I literally don't know why it wasn't just like click this, good to go, because that's what it ended up being. But the instructions were pretty vague. But
Yeah.
I fired up for a match, and it was a ton of fun. And so that kind of scratched my like first person shooter itch, and I'm really upset that game died, because I think it would thrive right now.
Right.
It was doing something that no other arena shooters right now are doing. It was creating like a whole bunch of fun. Titanfall did like bots in PvP matches before anybody else did. And it kind of made sense in their play environment. They developed for it from the ground up. The Titans are really cool. They have non-Titan modes where it's just, all pilots like shooting each other. The wall running, the grappling. Dude, Titanfall 3 needs to happen for PvP.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
And Titanfall 2 has one of the best FPS single player campaigns ever.
I need to go back and play that too.
Dude, it's amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. The story's
literally
so good.
Everybody that's played it is what I've heard is it's the best first person shooter,
hands down.
So
hands down. I never got into Titanfall 2 PvP. Titanfall 1 I did. Obviously, that's all it was. But no one played 2 with me. So I just...
Well, because it launched right in between Battlefield and Call of Duty. And in Battlefield's EA's own game.
Right.
And like Titanfall, it was just Titanfall 1 was kind of coming off the success of, it launched in the summer. Late spring kind of summer where no other games were. They literally just kind of threw it out there because there wasn't a good time. And it ate it up. It was one of the first games that really kind of occupied that time slot, where everyone was kind of done with all the Christmas Call of Duty stuff, and they were looking for the next game. And everyone at the time was like, well, you can't launch in the spring and summer because everybody's out playing in the yard or whatever. You gotta wait for the fall. Well, they launched there and they cleaned up. Everybody was hungry for that new experience at that time frame. And then
you okay?
There's just and then lo and behold, Nintendo comes through with Breath of the Wild and Mario in March, which no other games ever launched in March, and they clean up. And now it's this massive launch window for everything, and it's kind of even bigger than the fall.
Now it's just
games are kind of launching more year round, but I think we usually get the most stacked games in the February to beginning of April time frame. It's just February and March are 40 some games launching in that time frame.
Yeah, I remember when Titanfall 1 launched, you're the one who told me go get it. And I got hooked, man. I remember, I forgot how many times I prestiged, but I had so much fun with that, man. I remember that was when I started getting super sweaty with that game, because I remember with my Kinect, Xbox record that, just making montages and stuff, because you had your little,
yes, those so good.
Those were the good days.
For sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how Marathon's going to be. I'll give it a try. The Division game, I'll give it a try. I'm just content right now with how many good single player games I got going on. I got 4 things downloaded on my PC right now, which normally I only have 1. I got Zelda fired up. It's been a good couple months because I was playing some competitive games with Caleb over the winter, and after we all fell off of Call of Duty. Well, besides, is Casey still playing Warzone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
After we all fell off of that, besides him, I tried to play some other shooters and stuff. But there's this Hunt Showdown was a blast, but that game is just too if you try to do good, it's just too stressful for talk about rage inducing, man. Because you just be running through the woods and done. It's okay, fuck, we'll boot it back up. So yeah, I don't know. we'll see. I hope, you know me, I like getting into competitive games, but it's just like if there's not one that's really drawing me, I'm not gonna. It would be so cool though, man. Like I do like that. Hey, what time are you getting on? Getting on with the boys. You know, you're feeling left out.
There's literally no better feeling in gaming than when you're into a game, an online game with your boys,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all like with it too, and not just really not just like one other person, but you got the whole crew on. Everybody's jumping on. It's a blast, and it's a blast when you can take advantage of like the hype game, like of a big game, and it delivers on the hype, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah. What was our last topic? I can't remember.
Well, we have some hardware launches to talk about for the NVIDIA and AMD.
I will tell you right now, I don't have a slightest clue what you're talking about. So you'll have.
But part of this, you we'll have some kind of discussion points because it relates to your hardware. But right before that, I just wanted to kind of like quickly talk. I was watching a Linus Tech Tip video about like building a keyboard. He went through the whole process of like building your own keyboard and why it's like they're expensive or like a enthusiast kind of hobby where it can be really really expensive or you can kind of do it like cheaply. And so I had actually had some like extra parts from when I bought my custom keyboard that like I got, and I was like, this didn't come already pre-installed. I'm not taking this thing apart and installing it. So they kind of just like sat there the entire time. And so after I kind of like watched the video, I was like, you know what? I'm not like super happy with like my keyboard. I've been like kind of looking for some other ones. And so I was like, all right, I'll take it apart and do the upgrades. And now like, I just sat there one night. I brought it upstairs with my wife. We sat on the couch. She watched her show and she had dinner, and I was kind of just like fiddling with all the pieces, and like I had a ton of fun doing it, and it sounds so much better and feels so much better. And so I was really content, and actually she came up and she's like, hey, can you build me a keyboard so I can take it to work? A lot of my coworkers like have their own keyboards that they've brought in. And I was like, hell yeah, I can. I definitely wasn't gonna spend the amount that I spent on this thing,
right?
For her. And honestly, I don't think I'd spend the amount of money again, because I think it was like advertised at like $175, right? And so I was like, yeah, like that's it's a high end keyboard, but I was like completely custom. And then they just upsold me on everything.
Yeah.
I think I ended up spending over $300. Because everything was an upsell. It doesn't come with like a USB-C cable, or it did, but like I wanted the like helicopter like braided one. So I got one of those, and like then you had to buy the switches. And they don't sell the switches in just the packs that you'd need to fill out your keyboard. They sell them in like 15 packs or like 10 packs or whatever of keys. And so I was looking at there, and I think they sold it in like a 30, and they're all different packs from like each brand. And they sold theirs in like, I don't know, a 35 or a 40 pack or something I got with it, which wasn't enough to fill all my keys, even though I have like, a 65% or a 10 keyless. And so I had to steal keys from a different one of my keyboards until the other ones like came in on order.
Yeah.
And then you needed keycaps, and so like those were kind of like expensive.
And if you want silence or dampeners and this and that.
Yeah, and it's just like, and then like there's like different plates that go inside of it, and it was a whole thing. But either way, it was really cool. And so Glorious actually has like a new line of like kind of like semi complete custom keyboards, kind of like a step down from mine, but still really nice. And so one of the things she had to have a numpad. And they actually have one that's like really compact, even with a numpad on there. So yeah, I got her $120 keycaps, came with switches that are supposed to be really excellent for typing, and I showed her a video of like the sound of somebody like typing on the key, with the switches that are on there.
Yeah.
She's like, that sounds good.
That's
that
funny.
sounds really
now
good.
She's gonna be building her own keyboard.
And then and so like I'm still kind of confused on the different like switch types and like which ones I like and which ones I don't. I have the the holy pandas right now in there, which is kind of like a lot of people say are like some pretty solid switches, and what's like it's one of the things that like Glorious Gaming pushes and a drop.com pushes those, and so I think they're like pretty solid. But I also bought just like a sample pack of like 10 or 15 switches of like all the different kind of types, and so you'll have like your reds, your blacks, your blues, and your browns. And so not only will I have like her test them all out, but I'll be able to test them out and really figure out like which ones do I actually like, right? And so because I had like browns for a while, and I thought I liked those, and then I got the holy pandas, and I really liked those in the beginning, and then they kind of almost got like stiff. I don't know if I just like wasn't using them enough. Some of them have more of a break-in period than other ones do. But I think part of it too was like the back plate to the thing. So when you tear it down, this one came with like a aluminum like back plate, and so like the deck, you'd press the key and like the key would kind of go to flex in a little bit, and it would hit that aluminum deck, and it wouldn't give at all, and it would kind of like come off as like a rigid kind of thing. Well, I replaced the aluminum with a like polycarbonate, like plastic that has a way more give, and it's so much better.
Yeah, so I like reds. I've had different, but I like reds, and then I have through silencers on mine, and the little dampener rings. You know?
Yep. I did that too as well while I was in there, and I do like those a lot. Like they just like really kind of even out any of the harsh sounds that you don't like from smashing.
Especially too when we're trying to record or you're actually gaming and recording.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you heard me typing, but I've been
a little bit, but yeah, I mean, no, I don't get that at all. So,
so that was a lot of fun. It was really exciting that like she finally like kind of getting into one of the hobbies that like I get into, and so
that's cool. But it's just like me with my Anytime Heather. Like she just bought me all these shirts, you know.
Yeah.
It's just cool when you got support from the wife, or know she's talking about stuff like you know tonight she's messing around with my green screen and this and that, and it's just nice. But this I decided to wear there's no sunshine. I love and that. She was awesome about it because these were all from Walmart actually, and she
really
she got them online, and the I've Spoken, and then this one she got in like the more expensive, nicer fabric. Like the really comfortable, kind of like our True Nerds ones are. Your
wife has great taste.
Yeah, the gray ones, you know, those are nicer fabrics. This one, and then I've Spoken, because I say that to her all the time. I'll try to like boss her around and be like, I have spoken. So yeah, man, that was a cool surprise. I didn't she was doing that, and all of a sudden yesterday I walked in the house, she's like, your gifts came. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I was really excited about that. But yeah, it's just a good feeling when or two, like we'll just like
get that support, or you get like something that you're both kind of into.
Like even in the mornings, man, I'll get up and she's like, hey, how was your game last night? It's just cool. How's your podcast, this or that? And and
I've kind of gotten into was my wife diffusers, like essential oils, putting them in diffusers and stuff, and I didn't really understand it at first, but then like I did a whole bunch of research because I was getting her a gift, and like got her like a nice diffuser, and like she loved it. And so I've been kind of getting into it with her, picking out different things, and like actually it's pretty awesome. I kind of love it. It's way better than candles. Like more cost effective. You can create your own smells by mixing different scents. Like it's great, and like just to see like her excitement, because like that's something she's really into,
right?
And to kind of just like pick one or two things that the other person's into, and just like do the research on it, like go all in, and it's like it's just so rewarding. And and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like have that support and have somebody feel like the same way or similar way that like you do about something.
Heck yeah. Oh, speaking of support, I want to look right now. 199 subs. We're one away from 200. So
Let's go. Hit us up, boys. After this.
yeah, need one more. And we're only
So
800 more away.
Last topic, I'll kind of like blow through it pretty quick, but two graphics cards launched this week: the 4060 Ti for $399, and AMD launched the 7600 for $270.
That's cheap, dude. Like I don't know the specs of the things, but just like hearing a graphics card being under $300, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was one of the kind of things is from the benchmarks, the 7600 is like it's pretty okay. Only reason is that AMD also dropped the price of all their last gen cards, and so you can get like their 6700 XT, which is like a pretty decent tier above the 6700 with more VRAM for like $70 to $80 more, and it's a pretty decent tier above. We're talking like 20 FPS higher,
Yeah.
at like 1080p and some 1440p games, and with that VRAM extra, like you can play a lot more 1440p games that are VRAM heavy. So there is better alternatives, but I would just like to point out that the sub $300 price point has been abandoned for the past 3 years since 2020.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you last time I saw a $300. Like that's just not a thing.
Correct. The 60 series card, the 2060, was the last under $300 card to launch, and it stayed there for 6 years. The 3060 came out, and it was $360 or $50. The 3060, which was terrible. It was like 20% more expensive and 20% better than 2060. It was awful. So just that graphics cards are coming under that $300 price point again, and there's a lot of AMD cards actually in that price point. It's a pretty competitive space, the $200 to $300 space, which is amazing because that's where gaming used to be. Used to be able the 1060, the 480, the 580, the 470 for under $200. Like there are some great cards in that price point, and we just haven't had it for 3 years ever since the Bitcoin shortage. And
yeah, well, I remember even like back in the day when I was upgrading my my Windows 98 XP. I can't remember if it was it was HP. But just going to Best Buy and letting my mom buy me a graphics card so I could play some games, man. Like I wish that was the thing nowadays.
You couldn't do it for the past 3 years. Like,
right. So now it's like, hey, I want to upgrade.
The worst graphics cards that aren't even gaming cards were over $150 for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And they were already 3 to 5 years old.
Right.
There was such a shortage that it was awful. It sucked because that was my bread and butter. When I built, like, I've basically stopped like building and selling PCs because I just couldn't get my hands on a graphics card. And normally I get one of my buddies upgrades a CPU and a motherboard, and I'll take that and build a used computer around it for really cheap, and I just get like a decent graphics card to put in there, and I'd sell a computer for under $500.
Right.
Well, there hasn't been a graphics card for under $300 that's like been worth buying for the past 3 or 4 years. And so just the return to that space by companies, because like it'll launch at this price and it'll go down eventually with sales. And so the kind of return to that is really good to see. I love it. It's exciting. It means more people can get into gaming.
Yes, that's
they can have a great experience. It's awesome. And so then the 4060 Ti on the NVIDIA side at $399 is I kind of want your opinion on this. It's basically your 3070 that's a slightly worse, like 2 or 3 FPS worse. But it has DLSS 3.
See, that's funny because when you're looking at DLSS 3, Like I spent $800 on my 3070. So if you're talking $300 less for a card that's slightly less powerful but can do 3, I think that's a better card.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But
like
the 3070's MSRP was $499.
that's true. I bought during So the difference of $100. See, I wish you could get.
So
But
in
that's
a
just
full generation, you've got it goes down. And to be fair, honestly, the 3060 Ti, the card this card's replacing, was Nvidia's best bang for your buck card in the entire lineup the entire time. And it really wasn't that far behind the 3070. Like we're talking like 5 FPS maybe
Right.
10 for $100 difference. And so the fact that there wasn't that big of a difference then, and now there still isn't that big of a difference. So it's literally only 10% better on average than the 3060 Ti for the same price. And the only thing that you get is access to DLSS 3, and it's like frame generation, which not all games support.
Right.
Actually, most don't.
So with the MSRP discussion, if you had to pay what I had to pay, then yes, much better card, right? But now the $100 difference, I don't know. That's
it. Literally, they both have 8 gigs of VRAM, but the 4060 Ti it's a worse 8 gigs because they cut the like memory bandwidth in half. So not only do you have like a memory size, but you have like this, they call it like a bus width, and it's measured kind of in like megabytes, and that's kind of like how much it can like load into that kind of at a time. I'm not really knowledgeable about that like in depth and kind of like what it does, but the 4060 Ti gets worse and worse as you go up in resolution. So Nvidia is marketing it as a 1080p card. And then as you go to 1440p, it gets worse and closer to the 3060 Ti and farther away from the 3070. And then if you look at 4K, and it's just awful.
So it's a weird card then. So it's
very weird.
It's better than the 3060 Ti in some
by 10% on average,
but $100 more.
But some games, because it flip flops based on the game. So games that are more like memory bandwidth sensitive, the 3060 Ti in some cases at 1440p does an FPS better than the 4060 Ti.
See, that's a complex answer on like who's your market? Who do you
people that can afford $399?
I know, but if you can pay that for, so how much was a 3060 Ti?
$399.
So why wouldn't you buy that?
Because they're selling DLSS 3.
Okay.
Kind of like they were selling ray tracing for the longest time. And that was $100 premium no matter what.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, a lot of the graphics cards for the 40 series are 20% better than their previous series and 20% more expensive or more. So while this is probably some of like the worst launch graphics card we've seen in a really long time because of its gimped memory bandwidth. It has the same memory bandwidth as cards that cost under $200 for the past 10 years. It didn't get an increase to 12 or 16 gigabytes of VRAM, even though AMD has been offering that under the $500 price point for a long time. And it is only 10, in best case scenario,
10%.
It's only 10% better than the card it's replacing.
Yeah, that's weird because I mean, like, I don't feel on a daily basis that I miss anything by not having DLSS 3. Now, I know that can really benefit because like that's just a standard. Like DLSS is just a standard in most games. Like, granted, there's some games that don't have it, but for me to spend $100 more for that,
so
I don't think personally I would do it. If I had a 3070 and you said it was, you know, for the MSRP I bought it for, back in the day, I paid $780 or something. If you said I had to pay $880 to have some games that might get a little less, or get me more frames because it could upscale, I wouldn't pay that. Right?
And so it's DLSS 3, really its only advantage over DLSS 2 is they're calling it DLSS 3, by the way, but it's frame generation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's them making up a frame that's in between two rendered frames.
Right. It's an AI.
AI creating a full frame. But it doesn't do any actual DLSS any better than your 3070.
Right. So, and I've heard that's
the only feature that
I've heard in some cases that extra frame actually makes the game feel wonky.
Worse. Yes.
So
your input latency kind of goes down, or your input latency stays the same, but you should be getting like better input latency the more FPS you have.
Right. But
then some of those frames that it creates are screwed up. And so you can see just like a quick, like weird artifact that like, oh, where did that come from?
Right.
So it's not perfect. I'm sure it'll get better like over time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice to have, but Nvidia seems to be sitting on their victories. Everyone just buys Nvidia basically. AMD's market share is almost next to nothing. And they're just like selling you these features. Like they pushed ray tracing on everybody. They pushed DLSS on everybody. And everybody kind of
how much I use ray tracing? Like never. I never do.
I turn it on and then I look at the differences and I can't notice them. And honestly, I turn it off and I was like, I think a lot of the ray trace stuff looks better, even in Cyberpunk. That's supposed to be the ray traced game.
The only game that I think it looks better is Control, and that was one of the first games that like relaunched just for ray tracing.
Yep. The only game that I play with ray tracing on is actually Jedi Survivor, and the only reason, this is one of the biggest things that I noticed, is in the cutscenes. The lighting is accurate.
Okay. And
if you have it off, you can really, there's a bunch of subtle differences, obviously. Ray tracing really isn't that huge of an upgrade because game devs have been getting so good at the old techniques for so long. But his lighting of his hair is off in the cutscenes. It's either way too bright for like the light isn't on his hair, or it's like too dark kind of, and it should be, or the whole hair is the exact same color, even though there's like a shadow, like the light is. But if you've got ray tracing on, dude, it is movie quality cutscenes. It blows you away. It's the best cutscenes I've seen out of a game ever. It's like I'm watching a Star Wars movie, and it's good. With ray tracing. So the only reason I leave it on is just for the cutscene.
Yeah.
And I get with like the upscaling that they do in there, they only have FSR. They don't have DLSS, which is kind of stupid.
That's weird.
I use that in high settings, and I get about 55 FPS with ray tracing on. But my TV's G-Sync, and so I don't really like notice it, and it's a pretty consistent 55, right? Like if it bounced around between like 40 and 55, it'd be like, all right, I need to turn this off. It's pretty jank. But yeah, I'm like 50 to 55 FPS with ray tracing on, and it's a pretty tough game to run in general.
Yeah,
and I'm running it at 4K.
Yeah, I was gonna say 55 at 4K with ray tracing. That's pretty damn good. After all the patches, of course.
Correct.
I still need to go back and see, kind of add. We're going long here, but after Zelda, I need to go back and see if The Last of Us is finally fixed.
Finally fixed?
Yeah, I think it's playable right now, but it's just not
still not
where it should be for the fourth fucking remake that they've done. It's the third or fourth remake of the same game.
I know.
I just want to put that out there.
The fastest remade game ever. I mean, because like I get a lot of it's why, because it usually launches at the end of a console generation, and so they remake it for the next gen, right? And then the second one comes out, and they do a full remaster, and not just like a remake, and then the next generation comes out, and they release a version for that too.
And by the way, PC wants to play
they only did a PS5 version and PC version this time, and the PC version got so fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't understand how.
I know.
It's like the main thing that they were like selling it for, because like PS5 people, they've already played it 4 times over.
Right.
You didn't need a PS5 version to like get that much out of it.
Yeah.
It was for the PC people, and they fucked it up.
Yeah, hopefully it's fixed. I mean, luckily. Excuse me. Luckily, I have plenty of games I've been playing. But yeah. Anyways, you got anything else to add here? I'm getting yawning. I'm like,
yeah, I just kind of wanted to close out on the graphics card kind of discussion here with NVIDIA just like really likes to hamper its graphics cards so that they play well today and exactly today. And they can see literally a year or two in the future and find that you're going to have a degraded experience, and you're going to want to upgrade your graphics card. So
just like the VRAM is a consistent
the VRAM issue. Yep. And like this one still has 8 gigs of VRAM. They didn't upgrade it. So it is your 3070, basically, except a little bit worse, with the same amount of VRAM. They didn't even fix the VRAM issue. And in fact, they made that VRAM issue worse by limiting that it's like bus speed.
I mean, what's the solution here? Do you just, is AMD?
I think you really have to start looking at AMD, and especially like you said, we don't turn ray tracing on. Right. And I've got my 6800 XT in my like other computer, and I'll play it when I'm like upstairs or hooked to a different TV, and I really have a good experience with it. And it kind of gets me to the point is like, why am I on the like 3080 12 gig on my main system? Like the 6800 does some work, and honestly, the last 3 AAA games run flawlessly on AMD and have issues on NVIDIA.
Okay. See, I will say this: I've never had knock on wood, I've never had a single issue with performance on any game I've ever played on my 3070 ever. Now I don't know if that's just the games I'm playing or what, but like my PC just likes to run games. Like I turn the shit on, and I'm good.
That's how I feel with my 6800 XT. It just
and every PC is different. Someone could have a 3070, same as me, and I have a 3070, and for whatever reason, my rig just runs it good. But then I hear like on other podcasts and stuff, they're like, "Oh, I couldn't even get the game to boot." I'm like, never had that happen ever.
True, but you're also you're not playing a lot of the like day one releases. The one game you did try and play day one, The Last of Us, didn't work out really well.
I didn't even boot it. Didn't even boot it up.
So like Hogwarts Legacy launched, and while it was definitely still playable, it was no Jedi Survivor like launch, but it played noticeably at higher FPS and smoother on an AMD graphics card than NVIDIA did, and it needed a patch and a driver update to like fix. And the last couple games have been like that. Jedi Survivor is kind of like that, and they're built for FSR with AMD and like not within NVIDIA. And so honestly, I feel like people need to consider AMD graphics cards. They need to tell NVIDIA, vote with their wallet, that you can't keep doing this crap to people. Like AMD, at least like, they hold their own kind of, they shoot themselves in the foot by themselves a lot of time, but
dude, I love my Sapphire card.
Exactly. They gave that graphics card 8 gigs of VRAM, and NVIDIA would have gave it 4 or less. 3.5 for those 970 owners.
Peterson's got a 6900 XT, and dude, he loves that card so much.
Dude, they do work, and they give you enough VRAM for kind of like at least the foreseeable future. Like the 6800 has 16 gigs of VRAM, so it's good for this whole next generation, right? And so if you're a person who likes to skip every generation, or every other, you know, like I think most people honestly do, because
Yeah.
you know, who's out there buying $700 graphics cards every generation? AMD's got better value. Your graphics card has longer legs.
Right.
Like in your 3070, will you be able to play every game you want to? Absolutely. Are you gonna have to turn down some of the like texture quality settings to like limit VRAM usage here in the near coming future for
probably next year
for
newer games?
For these hit or miss kind of games that are chewing up VRAM? Yeah, you might have to, but they're still gonna look like pretty solid and like get it. But like, you know, if it comes to a point where you just want to fire up the game and play and not have to think of, you know, go through the settings and figure out like what
to turn
game
down.
settings, how can I optimize this, then you know, I think people should start looking at AMD. Like they're in the high end, right? Like the 4080 and 580 graphics cards, the Polaris ones that you used for forever, they were AMD's best graphics cards for a long time, and they couldn't figure out how to fight in the high end.
I had that Sapphire from 2016. What year did I upgrade? 2021? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
5 years.
5 years, and that card was still running games good. Still running games good.
It still does. And honestly, there were so many of them either that were shucked back out because they were no longer efficient in cryptocurrency mining, or AMD had just still been producing them for the longest time. They were still the answer to the sub $300 market. They were selling for like $250, and they could still game like pretty well. And so it just sucked because, you know, AMD went with that, and then Vega on top of it. Vega sucked, and then AMD launched the like 5000 series, and it was really good, but their best card was like a 2070 class card. They didn't compete with the 2080, and they didn't compete with 2080 Ti.
Right. And
now they're competing. They're in a stone's throw against NVIDIA's most powerful graphics cards, and they've never been that close before.
Right.
But they're also priced appropriately, so they're priced way down from NVIDIA's tax.
Yeah.
And so you can get a lot more value out of a lot of the AMD cards.
Yeah, I've just always been I like an AMD CEO too.
Lisa Su.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Dr. Lisa Su.
Yeah, just listening to her, you can tell she genuinely cares about the company. You know, I used to own a lot of stocks in AMD, and you know, it's just, I love my card right now, just especially because it's that MSI triple fan, dude. Like that thing is a beast. But I
will say NVIDIA is usually like more power efficient, and better at like, you know,
cooling and
stuff like that. Yeah, like the 3070 was just an absolute amazing card for what it launched at $499, and kind of even when you bought it, because that's what the market was going for. And yeah, you got a premium model with 3 fans and a great cooler, and for the fact that you're competing with, you know, my liquid cooled card, and we have like similar temps, I'm like, God dang it, dude. I never had an air cooled card that ran that low of like temperature wise and that quiet.
Yeah. I love this thing. Yeah, we'll see, man. You know, I probably won't buy anything in this 40 generation, but you know. Well,
so here's the other my last point that I actually had written down here is it kind of seems like NVIDIA is playing this like every other generation kind of a deal, where they have a solid generation, and then they try and sell you on a feature, right? So like the NVIDIA 10 series was a really good series, banger of a series, and then they try to sell you on ray tracing and DLSS. And then the 30 series, banger, right? Like they took a $1,200 card and made it $500, banger generation, amazing. But you couldn't get it because everybody wanted it, because everybody waited.
Right.
And so now you're getting this 40 series. It's back to this, like, we're selling you on a feature, a future feature, right? Like it's not even in every game right now. And then I have a feeling next generation is going to be really good, But the problem is you won't be able to get your hands on it for a while because everybody's waiting to upgrade.
Yeah.
And so Nvidia's just like playing this game with people that they make it either unappealing to buy right now, or for like, you know, an informed consumer, or people who are just like, screw it, I'm just going to get it because it's what I can afford and it plays games good now. They're forcing them to upgrade next generation, or want to upgrade because they've artificially held you back in some way, kind of like Apple does with its iPhones and its tablets, where they hold back features so they can sell you
right
next year. And the arrogance of these kind of companies to like do that, it kills me. And it, like, if it wasn't for EVGA making my 3080, I wouldn't be buying Nvidia. I'd be buying an MSI AMD card.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. I'm you know, once I start getting to kind of the point I got with my old graphics card, where I'm like, okay, you know, I'm starting to struggle on like the higher ultra settings. It's like for 2K, you know, it's time to upgrade. So, and I think that's a nice thing too, is I game in 2K, not 4K. So I'll definitely have a little more longevity than some 4K
for sure.
people will.
For sure. And then like, right, and you have DLSS. A lot of the pretty much all the benchmarks you see online of the graphics cards in the 3070s running out of VRAM, they're running at 1440p ultra settings, no DLSS, because they DLSS isn't available on AMD, or they're similar, but they're not like for like features. They don't produce the exact same image quality, so they can't test them against the competition on either side. And so, you know, you play 1440p with DLSS, now your graphics card's running the game at a lower resolution and upscaling it. Now you've got enough VRAM. And so you can definitely, there's ways to get by, but it does suck when NVIDIA
you have a
is
nice
like,
card with 8 gigs. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all.
Especially for the future. I think it made sense for the 3070 when it came out.
Not no more.
Was not when games these next gen games that are coming out are using 12 to 16 gigs of VRAM at 1440p.
Right.
Pretty soon here I won't be able to run 8K, or not 8K, 4K games. And I've got my 4K, like, you know, OLED TV running at 120 hertz, and I won't be able to do it. I'm running into it with Jedi Survivor right now, right? I am on the minimum of an acceptable level for myself for 4K gaming, you know, with all the like bells and whistles turned on. And I never ran into that issue with my 2080 Ti that I had. And so I thought I was smart and got the 12 gig version of the 3080 and not the 10 gig version. But it seems like all these game companies are targeting 16 gigs. So, you know, did I shoot myself in the foot here by like buying this?
Twice as much as our card has. That's crazy. Yeah, we'll see. So, maybe we'll be buying a new card together next year.
Maybe.
And maybe we'll make a trip. Make a trip down to
Micro
Center. That'd be fun.
Let's go.
That'd be fun. Or I'll probably have all my Best Buy points, and I'll be buying out Best Buy. So,
heck yeah,
$500 monitor I'm looking at right now, that's free. So, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wasn't aware of what a weird place that card is in. So, leave it to you to bring up some true nerd stuff.
That's what I do.
You got anything else to add? I've been going for hour and 43 minutes, good sir.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be long.
Yeah, Heather was like, you guys talk for an hour just about nothing. Now you have an actual plan to talk about stuff. It's going to be 2 hours. I'm like,
Yep.
Yeah. But, all right, I got nothing else.
I got nothing else except for stay nerdy.